Hello, my name is Bob Roop. My function here today is to introduce a documentation that I'm calling, and the people associated with me are calling Plan B.
I had no idea. They ever made a tape like that. I'm sure they waited until about the time I sold out, and maybe my selling out is what forced their hand. They got Barnett coming in there, and they didn't know what to expect from that.
All the surrounding territories where the promoters were sending talent into Knoxville to run against us. So Plan B was a way to fight back. The reason we made that, it was Ron Wright's idea. He had the studio. The reason to make that was because it was to be used as a threat because we didn't have anything else.
I got all kinds of threats, and about, don't be out in the nightclubs and don't do this and don't do that. And, and we're going to expose the business.
I've seen some people, comments that say, I should be, crucified for exposing the business and all that. But
the world could all five of them think that, this is a good idea.
But, I lost $200,000 trying to go opposition. And by the time I left there, I was broke.
They weren't drawing. They weren't successful at all. And they spent a lot of their own money, undoubtedly.
You can look back and say, a bad decision. But if it had worked, you're talking about a multi-million-dollar a year business.
I think they were just very disillusioned. I think they really believed, well, we're going to take this territory and it'll be ours. He'll go away. He's got another territory. Maybe they figured, well, he's got another one. He'll just go down there.
They were at Ronnie's apartment, and Malenko and Ronnie and I agreed. And then Bobby lived in that apartment complex too. And I called him down. He agreed. And Slater was, I think, staying with me. And we talked to him. I thought I could trust him, and he agreed.
Guy that did come and tell me finally who it was is a guy that they did talk to, and that was Dick Slater. Yeah. Dick was really tight with me, and he came to me and he said, Ron, you're going to have a problem.
And there's a lot of people out there that might recognize me, and those people would be called wrestling fans. The greatest majority of you won't recognize me because you're not wrestling fans. In truth, my occupation is that of a professional wrestler. My purpose here today is to tell you about professional wrestling. Not what you're used to seeing. Not the burlesque sort of carnival sideshow type wrestling show that you're used to seeing, but what wrestling, professional wrestling, in actuality really is. And I've been in it 10 years now, professional wrestling. And it is just that business. And I just want to say one thing. In all the time I've been in professional wrestling, I have never, ever had a real wrestling match. Every match that I've been in, or so-called match, has been merely an exhibition that was designed to attract fans to come in, to see the matches, to get their money. And the only problem with that is that the matches have been billed as they've been tried to create the effect that these matches were in effect going to be real matches, that the people were mad at each other. That has never been the case. I've wrestled in Europe, the Far East, all over the world, Australia, Japan, and all over the United States, and I've never had a real match. You have no reason, most of you out there that are seeing this documentary have no reason to take my word for it. You don't know me, and unless you're a wrestling fan, you've never seen me before. For that reason, I would like to offer some corroboration. And I'd like to introduce a friend of mine, a gentleman named Larry Simon. His experience, 25 years of wrestling. Larry, I'll let you tell your own story.
Thank you, Bob. My trademark through the years, people that have been watching wrestling, people that have followed wrestling, have known me as a person that stands in that camera each week with his eye cocked like this. And this is my shtick, this is my gimmick. I would say something in reference to this. My voice would change. I would accumulate an accent as I'm talking to you here and now. I am 230 pounds of mind and muscular coordination that is unbeatable. This is something that I am an expertise at. But as well as the light side, I would like to show you something else, or tell you something. I have never had, in all the 27 years of being a professional wrestling, what you call a real wrestling match. You can call it whatever you want. It was a planned type of match. I knew who was going to win, and I knew who was going to lose. It was all set up before I ever went out to wrestle. And to corroborate my story, I would like to introduce you to a dear friend of mine, a gentleman by the name of Ron Wright.
In my 25 year, I, like Mr. Malenko, have never had a real, legitimate wrestling match. My wrestling matches have all been pre-planned and worked out before ever entering the ring in any of the cities that I have ever wrestled, or more like that I've ever performed in. And to back my story up, I would like to bring another man out here that's been well known all over the United States, and bring him on the set and introduce him. This is Ronnie Garvin.
Well, thank you, Ron. People really believe in me. Well, I can fight, but in all my wrestling career, I have yet to have a real wrestling match. All my matches have been arranged. I went out in the ring and used chairs and gimmicks that wrestlers call, and I'm good at it because I convince the people. People think I'm a maniac. Actually, I'm not. I'm a great actor. Actually, I'm a calm person. And when I make interviews, I go crazy. My eyes, my facial expression change. This is what I do. And people do believe me. And like I said, I have yet to have a real wrestling match.
And we've been conditioned to protect it, even though it is a fraud. Well, this is just the outline. This is the first part of a mini-series that we have planned. And in later segments, we're going to talk about, the second question I was ever asked after Is Wrestling Fake was, where does the blood come from? We're going to do a whole segment on where does the blood come from. We're going to show you exactly where it comes from. We're going to demonstrate terms of the wrestling business, how the actual manipulations work. That's going to be another segment. We're going to do a segment about the money. Like I just said, $1 billion a year earned and only 330 million reported. Huh. The IRS is surprised about that, I imagine. We're going to talk about the impact of homosexuality on the wrestling business. We're going to talk about drug abuse in the wrestling business, and it's prevalent, believe me. We're going to talk about the federal laws that are being broken knowingly with the cooperation of federal authorities.
I think they made it and they decided not to use it because they realized that they weren't going to make it there, and that they were going to need to continue to wrestle. That's what they did, and how they're going to make the money. After Barnett got it, he sold it to Ric Flair and Blackjack Mulligan.
Blackjack.
It died. It totally died. Knoxville was dead for 5 years. Nobody could draw a dime there. 1985, I got this TV show started again. I went back to Knoxville and I said, how would you like to be back in the wrestling business? And the TV station took me right back. They put us on, and first night there, we sold out the Coliseum. We sold out the Coliseum every other week for 2 years, 3 years after that.